But at long last, I am able to say a few words of my own. I have never wanted to withhold anything. But until now, it has not been constitutionally possible for me to speak. And you must believe me when I tell you that I have found it impossible to carry the heavy burden of responsibility and to discharge my duties as king as I would wish to do, without the help and support of the woman I love. And now we all have the new king. I wish him and you, his people, happiness and prosperity with all my heart. God bless you all. God save the king.
King George VI was crowned the following year in May 1937, the third and final king to reign in the year of 3 kings. The shy Bertie was thrust to the forefront of the royal family, and with him his wife became queen, and his 2 young daughters, Elizabeth and Margaret, became next in line to the throne. The four's cosy family life changed dramatically from that moment onwards. Royal duty and devotion to the monarchy instead took precedence.
It's extraordinary when you think about it that 1 year saw 3 kings of England, George V, Edward VIII and George VI. But I think what's very interesting also is they were completely different kinds of people. George V was the last of the Victorians. He was this stern, unbending, old-fashioned ruler. Edward VIII was the first modern monarch. He's somebody who probably bears more relation to the monarchy today than he did to his own time. He was somebody who prized personal happiness, personal fulfillment, and what he wanted to do over any concept of duty, any concept of conventional kingship. Then George VI is something else altogether. He was somebody who was completely ill-equipped for the job, which he never thought he'd have to do. He was somebody who was terrified by the responsibilities that came along with it. But what he had, which served him exceptionally well later, was, first of all, his father's sense of duty and his father's sense of the monarchy as something sacred. But he also had the ability to listen to people, which his brother never did. And that was what was so crucial.
As the man who was never meant to be king, George VI felt overwhelmed with anxiety as he ascended to the throne in 1936. The new monarch's ongoing stammer compounded the precarious situation, and he worried about his adequacy for the huge task at hand. With the help of his beloved wife Elizabeth, Bertie desperately sought the aid of speech therapists and doctors to combat his stammer. However, many of the specialists failed to cure the prince's speech impediment, and Bertie became convinced that the cause of the affliction lay in the mind rather than the body.
Bertie had suffered from a stammer from childhood, but it was massively worse and exacerbated by his responsibilities when he reached adulthood, because he would have to give speeches, and he hated it.
The memorial seems to me finally conceived and finally executed. It is fortunate also in the position it occupied.
He hated it because he felt completely ill-equipped to do so, and he would actively try and avoid opportunities of doing so because he felt embarrassed. The problem is that what he realised, especially when his father was alive, was that you can't duck these responsibilities. And so he had these horrendously embarrassing experiences that he would go and address for kind of low-grade events that you needed a member of a royal family to be at. And he'd often find himself making noise rather than a conventional speech, which is why he needed to have a speech therapist who could actually help him.
Prince Albert started engaging in speech therapy lessons with Lionel Logue in 1926, 10 years before his unexpected ascension to the throne. Born in Australia, Logue's speech therapy career started in Perth, where he taught elocution, acting, and public speaking. After the First World War, Logue developed treatments for Australian war veterans suffering from shell shock. Many former soldiers had developed impaired speech, and Lionel felt much sympathy for the traumatized young men.
Logue was very unconventional because he didn't believe that the way of dealing with speech therapy was to be formal about it. He dealt with the king, who he called Bertie informally, as if they were friends, as if they were working on the same level. And the film The King's Speech offered a fictionalised account of this, and it's broadly accurate in what it suggests, that there was this friendship that arose between them.
Logue was self-taught, and the medical establishment initially dismissed him as a quack. However, his methods proved effective. When treating Bertie, Lionel encouraged daily breathing and vocal exercises, which helped relax the prince's muscles and limit spasms.
Jack and Jill went up the hill.
By 1927, Prince Albert was speaking much more confidently.
Without freedom, there can be no enduring peace, and without peace, no enduring freedom.
He managed to get Bertie going in terms of making public addresses. Bertie would practice day in, day out for at least an hour on strengthening his muscles around his vocal cords in order to try and gain a greater sense of confidence and control over his voice. The speech therapy was very effective for Bertie in that he did gain in confidence. Notably, the impediment would never fully go away. Bertie would continue to stammer, but nevertheless, he became a much more confident and competent public speaker than he had been before.
When Prince Albert ascended to the throne as George VI, Logue was frequently called to help assist with public speeches. On the coronation of George VI in 1937, Lionel helped the new king prepare for the sacred event by offering his expertise and supervision. Despite a poor rehearsal, the coronation ran smoothly, much to the delight of both George VI and Queen Elizabeth.
To the king, who in his own words now enters upon a new life, and to his charming queen, Britain and Empire wish many years of happiness. Long may they reign. God save the king.
George sent a letter of thanks to Lionel 5 days after the coronation, reading, "My dear Logue, the Queen and I have just viewed the film of our coronation, and I could not wait to send you a few lines to thank you again for your hard work in helping me prepare for the great day. You know how anxious I was to get my responses right in the Abbey, but my mind was finally set at ease tonight. Not a moment's hesitation or mistake. I want you to know how grateful I am, not only for your invaluable help with my speech, but for your devoted friendship and encouragement." The letter showed how much the new king truly appreciated Lionel's devoted service in times like the coronation. However, bigger and harder days still lay ahead for the monarch, and George VI desperately needed to win over the public. On the day the conflict broke out, George VI completed his first wartime speech with the help of Lionel Logue.
We are at war between ourselves and those who are now our enemies.
There are two speeches made at the beginning of 1939, one by Neville Chamberlain and one by George VI. Neville Chamberlain's is remembered because it was the one in which he essentially said, we have failed to find an agreement and we're now in a state of war. It's the one that everybody knows. George VI made a speech later that day, and what's interesting about his speech is that he concentrates very heavily on very religious language, because it's important to understand that while Edward VIII had no religious faith whatsoever and no interest in it, George VI was a very religious man. He was a committed churchgoer. He was somebody who prayed. He actually believed that God was helping him. And it's very interesting to see that this speech which he made, and it was a speech broadcast on the radio, was one that he was able to do thanks to the help of Logue, where there wasn't a lot of stammering. If you listen to it now, he's speaking clearly, he's got a strong voice, he's able to sound, he's not charismatic the way his brother was. You can hear he doesn't have the public speaking ability, but he was able to do it. He was able to actually say to his people, we are about to fight this war with the aid of God and we will prevail.
In a time of chaos and crisis across Europe and the world, King George VI became a symbol of strength during the struggle.
First, let us remember those who will not come back, their constancy and courage in battle, their sacrifice and endurance in the face of a merciless enemy. Let us remember the men in all the services, the women in all the services who have laid down their lives.
Lionel remained with George for every wartime speech. The pair continued working together until the mid-1940s. To show his deep gratitude, King George VI appointed Logue a Commander of the Royal Victorian Order, an honour which recognises distinguished personal service to the British monarch.